She held my hand while I bled to death and whispered, "You weren't such a bad mistake after all. I thought betrayal would feel like thunder, like lightning cracking through the sky." But it was quiet. Intimate. Like a kiss with poison on the lips. I stared at my wife Areeba as blood pooled beneath me. My lungs were collapsing, ribs broken, and all I could think about was how beautiful she looked in her red dress. The same one she wore on our wedding day. The same one she wore today, our 10th anniversary, when she smiled and served me poisoned wine. "It had to end this way, Omar," she whispered softly. "You wouldn't let me go." Let her go? I sold my company for her. I alienated my family for her. I spent a decade loving her more than myself, never realizing she was waiting for my life insurance to mature. And now, as my vision blurred and the room dimmed, she kissed my forehead like a blessing and whispered, "Marrying you wasn't so bad. You made it easy, really." She walked away humming as I died alone on the marble floor I'd paid for. But I didn't stay dead. I woke up gasping, drenched in sweat and 15 years younger. My body was different, leaner, sharper. My old room. My university dorm. The calendar read March 2009. The first thing I saw was Areeba, again, young, radiant, unaware of what she would do to me a decade from now. She was texting someone and laughing, her long hair tied in a careless ponytail. That laugh that used to heal me. Now it carved rage into my bones. This time I won't love her. This time I'll destroy her. And when she falls on her knees, I'll whisper, "You weren't such a bad mistake either." 15 years ago, I was a fool in love. And worse, I was blind to what kind of woman Areeba really was. Back in 2009, I was just a second-year engineering student at a top university. Focused, bookish, poor. My family had just suffered a financial collapse, my father had died of a stroke, and my mother was barely holding on. I worked 2 part-time jobs, studied late into the night, and still sent money home. And then Areeba happened. She was dazzling, a transfer student from an elite college, the kind of girl you expect to walk past you, not stop and smile. Her beauty wasn't just in her looks, it was in the way she made you feel seen, chosen. As if the universe aligned when her eyes met yours. She asked me for help in physics class. 1 tutoring session became 5. Then, late night chats, laughter over chai, silent library dates. I was the poor boy with big dreams. She was the rich girl with something to prove. Or so I thought. She always talked about how her family wanted her to marry a businessman or a doctor. She'd roll her eyes and say, "But I want someone real. Someone like you." And I believed her. In this new timeline, I watched her carefully. She still played her role perfectly, the sweet, misunderstood girl who pretended to be different from the rest. But I knew better now. I remembered how she laughed with her friend Faris at our wedding, only for me to discover years later that he was her secret lover. I remembered the credit cards, the hidden accounts, the property transfers I signed without reading, all things she orchestrated behind smiles and bedtime kisses. Even now, in her youth, she was laying the same traps. I noticed how she looked at my phone when I left it unattended. How she casually mentioned her uncle being in real estate, the same man who later helped us buy a home in his name. She was testing boundaries. And this time, I let her. I played the sweet fool again, but now with open eyes. I reconnected with my estranged cousin, Danish, a lawyer who, in my past life, tried to warn me about Areeba. I ignored him then. I wouldn't now. "What do you want from me this time, Omar?" he asked over coffee. "Advice? Or help with your grave?" I looked him in the eye. "This time, I want justice." He narrowed his gaze. "What did she do? Not yet, but she will." I didn't tell him everything. Who would believe me? That I'd died poisoned on my own anniversary? That I'd come back to make her suffer? So I kept things vague. I told him I had doubts. He laughed bitterly. "Of course you do. Girls like her don't date guys like us without a reason." That hit harder than I expected. But he wasn't wrong. In class, Areeba leaned on my shoulder and whispered, "I'm glad I met you here. You're the only one who makes me feel safe." I almost smiled almost. But inside me burned a ledger, a tally of every bruise she left on my life, every moment of humiliation, every year stolen. And I was already watching the signs. I saw her texting Faris again. They weren't dating yet, not officially. He was still just the rich cousin she pretended to despise. But I saw the look in her eyes when he passed. The flutter. The desire. This time, I wouldn't wait 10 years to find out the truth. This time, I'd dig it up myself. This time, I'd let her think she was winning until she had everything she ever wanted. And then, I'd take it all away. One signature at a time. I should have been numb by now. After all, I'd already lived through Areeba's betrayal once. But when I saw it unfold again, this time with younger eyes, it still hit me like a punch to the gut. It began innocently enough. Areeba asked me to help her organize a surprise birthday party for her cousin Faris. I froze. Faris. The same man she would eventually cheat on me with. The man whose photos I found in her hidden gallery, half-naked selfies, hotel room timestamps, videos I can never unsee. The man who sat beside me at my wedding like a brother. And now, 15 years in the past, she was inviting me to help plan his birthday? I want it to be special, she said, brushing her fingers against mine. He's been going through a lot lately. I forced a smile. Of course. Let me know what you need. Inside, I was a storm. She still hadn't slept with him, not yet. That came much later, after we got engaged. But she was laying the groundwork even now, hiding her interest behind cousinly concern. And that's when I decided to test her. I asked Danish to do a quiet background check on Faris. Nothing serious, just a social scan. In my old life, I trusted him. This time, I wanted proof early. 2 days later, Danish called me at night. You were right to be suspicious, he said grimly. Faris has a fake company in his name, registered only 6 months ago. Guess who's listed as his silent partner? My stomach turned. Areeba. I didn't react, Danish continued. And it gets better. She's been using her roommate's ID to make transactions, hiding money from her family. Looks like she's prepping for an exit plan. With him. It hit me then. In this timeline, I hadn't even confessed my love yet. I was still just the shy tutor. And yet, she was already preparing for betrayal just in case. Building escape routes. Financial shells. And me? I was her backup. The steady, reliable one. The pawn. I was never her first choice, only her safest one. I played along. I helped with Faris's party, paid for the cake, drove her to pick up decorations. I even watched her pretend to argue with him over the phone part of their toxic little act, the same dynamic I'd see years later when she told me, Faris is nothing, just a drama. And then the real moment came. At the party, I caught them. I wasn't supposed to see it, but I stepped out onto the balcony after a phone call and there they were. Alone. Too close. Her hand on his chest. His lips at her ear. I heard her say, just a little longer. I need him to fall first. She wasn't talking about love. She was talking about leverage. Me. I stepped back before they saw me, every part of me trembling. But not from heartbreak. From clarity. This wasn't a one-time mistake she made in the future. This was who she was always. A girl who knew how to smile and cut you at the same time. A girl who planned betrayal like it was architecture. A girl who practiced cruelty like it was art. And now, I know the full pattern. She'd pretend to be devoted. She'd slowly start borrowing money for emergencies, tuition, family struggles. She'd suggest investments, joint ventures, future dreams. And once she had enough, she'd vanish. Or worse, marry me and kill me slowly over the years with lies and stolen assets. But not this time. This time, I wouldn't try to stop her. This time, I'd let her think she was winning. Betrayal, I had expected. I had even prepared for it. But what I hadn't anticipated was how far Areeba was willing to go, and how deep the rot had already spread around her. 2 weeks after Ferris's party, Areeba invited me to lunch. Just us, she said with a teasing wink. My treat. She took me to a cozy cafe on the edge of campus. Red velvet chairs. Dim lighting. The same place where I'd first told her I loved her in another life. Here, in this timeline, I stayed quiet. She talked. A lot. About how fake most guys were. How she wished she could trust someone. How she hated being used by people. Irony, pouring from lips that once kissed me as I died. And then, she dropped the first real bomb. My parents are forcing me to marry someone back home, she said quietly, twisting her straw. He's older, owns land, but I can't do that, Omar. I kept my face neutral. What will you do? She met my eyes. You're the only person I trust right now. I almost laughed. She was testing the waters. This was her move. Push me into rescuing her emotionally, financially, draw me closer, get commitment. I played dumb. You could always say no. She lowered her gaze, voice barely above a whisper. Not unless I have a reason. Someone worth fighting for. There it was. The bait. And I nodded slowly, pretending to fall while plotting how far I could push her. But something strange happened the following week. I began receiving anonymous messages. No number. Just screenshots. Of Areeba and Ferris. Together. Flirting. Even receipts of her transferring money to a private account. The exact account Danish found earlier. At first, I assumed Danish was sending them, but he denied it. I haven't touched her accounts since last time. Someone else is watching her. But who? Then came the second twist. I overheard Areeba arguing on the phone late at night, just outside the girls' dormitory courtyard. Her voice was low, urgent, desperate. I told you I'm handling it. No, he doesn't suspect anything. Not yet. I said I'm using him for now. My chest tightened. This wasn't Ferris. The voice was different, colder, sharper. Another man? The next day, Danish pulled me aside. He looked spooked. We have a problem, he said, sliding his phone toward me. That company Areeba's secretly involved with? It's not just Ferris. There's another partner, a foreign name, someone connected to money laundering. I stiffened. What the hell is she involved in? He swallowed. If I had to guess, she's not just a gold digger, Omar. She's a con artist. A deep one. Ferris is just her pretty little puppet. It hit me like ice down my spine. In my past life, she'd kept me so close, so controlled. I never saw this side of her. I thought the betrayal was personal, emotional, but it wasn't. It was business, organized, dangerous. This wasn't just about love anymore. It was about survival. To make things worse, my mother called me crying that weekend. Beta, someone came to the house asking questions about you. Said you owed money. I froze. No one in this timeline knew who I was. I hadn't taken loans, hadn't gotten involved in anything risky. Yet someone had already begun attacking the people I loved. I asked for a description. My mother remembered only a black car. A tall man with sunglasses. Polite, but firm. Left no card. And then a day later, Areeba came to me in tears. I think someone's following me, she said, shaking. A man in a black car. I saw him near the library and near my hostel. I almost laughed. She was either bluffing, or someone else in her con was turning on her. Either way, I saw fear in her for the first time. That gave me leverage. I pretended to be the worried boyfriend. I offered to stay close, protect her. I even began walking her home again, like we used to. But every conversation revealed something new. She mentioned an old friend she used to work with before university. A married businessman who gave her gifts, introduced her to real estate. She said it casually, as if it was ancient history. But her eyes darted when she spoke. Her hands fidgeted. She was nervous. And I knew then that this web she wove wasn't just for me. It was for dozens. She'd been doing this long before she met me. And maybe in the original timeline, I was simply the one fool who stuck around long enough to be worth killing. And then came the final blow. I checked her laptop when she left it unattended during a study group. The password was the same as it had been 10 years later. Areeba always reused passwords. Inside, buried beneath class notes and memes, was a file. A list of names. And next to each, a number, a dollar amount, a date. It wasn't just men. There were women too. Professors, admins, people she had blackmailed, seduced, used. One name chilled me. Danish. I clicked the row. 2 years from now, she would target him next. She would accuse him of harassment, destroy his law firm, and siphon off his savings under the pretense of legal settlements. I shut the laptop. My blood boiled. This wasn't a game anymore. This wasn't about heartbreak. This was a war. In my past life, I loved her like a man sinking into the ocean grateful even as I drowned. This time, I would bury her in the waves. I began with silence. No confrontation. No warning. I let her keep thinking she had me wrapped around her finger. I played the doting, naive version of myself. I brought her tea. I listened to her problems. I even offered to help her set up an online tutoring business, the same scam she would run years later, where she took advance payments and disappeared. She lit up. She thought she was winning, and that's exactly what I needed. Meanwhile, I started laying foundations with Danish. I showed him part of her file, not everything, not yet, and warned him that in the next couple years, she would destroy his life. I need your help, I said, to bankrupt her before she bankrupts anyone else. He was skeptical, angry, hurt, but he believed me. I'll set the legal traps, he said. You get her to walk into them. And so, I built a stage. I began collecting victims. Areeba didn't just manipulate one person at a time, she layered her cons, and now I could find those people before they even realized they were targets. I approached Ferris. He was cocky, overconfident, perfect. I showed him anonymous screenshots of Areeba texting the unknown businessman. I didn't need to tell him what it meant. He connected the dots himself. She's cheating on me? That was the word I needed. Let him think he was special. Let him think he had a claim. I planted jealousy in his heart like a virus. All I had to do was suggest, maybe she's playing you both. It worked better than I imagined. 2 days later, Faris leaked one of Areeba's voice notes to an anonymous Instagram confession page. The one where she said, Ahmer is just a tool. Once I'm done with him, I'll move on. The post exploded. And though her name wasn't attached, I knew she saw it, because she began spiraling. The moment came when she called me in tears. I think someone's watching me, she said. I feel like I'm not safe. I leaned in close. I'll protect you, always. Her eyes softened and her guard dropped. That weekend, I suggested we form a company together. I told her I'd recently been approached by a relative looking to invest in educational startups. I even created a fake investor profile. Usman Bege old photo, new name, falsified bank slips. Danish helped me make it look real. She took the bait. She suggested we open the company under her name just to keep the paperwork simple, she said. Of course she did. Because she planned to drain it dry. What she didn't know was that every document she signed was being cross-filed through a shell entity. The moment she moved even a single dollar out of that company, we'd have her for fraud, identity theft, and corporate embezzlement. But it wasn't done yet. I needed her to publicly humiliate herself. So I arranged an investor pitch dinner. I booked a luxury suite, invited 2 fake partners, both actors Danish hired, and brought Areeba in looking like a queen. She made her pitch. She flirted. She talked in circles, dropping fake numbers, charming everyone like she always did. And I sat there, nodding like a proud fool. Then I asked her to show the financial records from her side. That's when she faltered. Because they didn't exist. She stammered, tried to deflect, but the actors played their parts perfectly. We need to verify this before proceeding, one said coldly. Let's schedule a follow-up. With our legal counsel present. Areeba smiled, but her eyes were on fire. She knew something had gone wrong. The cracks had started to show. I waited for the perfect day, our university's annual gala. All the top alumni, sponsors, faculty, and press. She was one of the featured student success stories, giving a short speech. Just before she went on stage, I uploaded the full file to an anonymous blog, screenshots of her blackmail list, the voice messages, the hidden accounts. I sent the link to every major WhatsApp group on campus. It spread like wildfire. I stood in the back as she walked on stage. She opened her mouth, and the first phone pinged in the crowd. Then another. And another. Whispers rippled. She began to speak, but the murmurs drowned her out. Within seconds, someone yelled, "Hey, Areeba, how much did you charge Faris to ruin his life?" She froze. Another voice, "Who else is on your little list?" People began laughing, recording, and mocking. Her mask cracked. She tried to keep her composure, but her voice wavered. I don't know what you're talking about." And that's when I stepped forward, right to the front. She saw me eyes wide, betrayed, exposed. I said nothing. I just looked her in the eye and smiled. She disappeared for a few days after the event, deleted her socials, stopped attending class. But I wasn't finished. The fake company we started? I had to trigger a breach report to the local cybercrime unit. Danish had coordinated with a contact inside. They found everything: money laundering, fraud, forged ID. She was arrested 2 weeks later, not for what she did to me, but for what she did to dozens of others. The justice system never cared about heartbreak, but it did care about numbers. I didn't attend her hearing. I didn't have to. She pleaded guilty to avoid a longer sentence. Her parents were humiliated. Faris was exposed too, not enough to go to prison, but enough to burn his reputation. Danish's firm, which she would have targeted in the future, now handled her victim's civil claims. Months passed. I graduated top of my class. I started my own company. Slowly, quietly. No one knew the full story, just rumors, internet gossip, and deleted posts. One day, I got a letter. From prison. It was from Areeba. Just one line, handwritten, in the center of the page. "I would have loved you if you hadn't known." I folded it neatly and burned it. Because I had loved her, and she had killed me for it. But this time, I made her remember me. Not as a victim, as her executioner. It's been 3 years since Areeba went to prison. Sometimes I still catch her face in crowds, not the real her, just the shadow. The memory. The ghost of a woman who once held my hand as I died. And I wonder, did I go too far? Then I remember what she whispered as I bled out in that old life. "You weren't such a bad mistake after all." No, I didn't go far enough. After her sentencing, life moved on, at least for the world. Faris dropped out. Danish firms rose. The university quietly removed Areeba's name from every program and scholarship. Her victims were compensated from what assets could be recovered. And me? I vanished. Not physically. I stayed in the city. But I stopped being the Omar everyone knew. I started my own business. I became cold, efficient, silent. Not heartless, just smart. I smiled less. Trusted no one. But I slept well. Because justice had been served. Or so I thought. Last month I received a message. No name. Just an address. It was a rented apartment in a quieter part of the city. I went out of curiosity, half expecting a trap. What I found shook me. It was a girl younger, maybe 19 or 20. She looked like Areeba, not in the exact features, but in the eyes. In the way she calculated her smile before speaking. She introduced herself as Alispa, and she asked me the strangest question. "You're the guy who took her down, aren't you?" I stayed quiet. She continued, "I used to be part of her crew, back when she ran online schemes, but after she got arrested, someone else picked up where she left off." My blood chilled. "Who?" I asked. She looked me in the eye and whispered, "Her sister." Areeba never mentioned a sister. In either timeline, Areeba swore it was real, same mother, different father. Kept out of records. Same tactics, same scams, but worse, smarter, meaner. She doesn't want money, Areeba said. She wants payback. She knows what you did. I asked why she was telling me. Areeba leaned in, voice barely audible, because she's already in your life. I left that apartment with a different kind of fear burning in my chest. I'd faced betrayal. I'd faced heartbreak. I'd even faced death. But this? This was something new. A predator hunting the hunter. Someone raised in the shadows of my revenge. A blood debt passed from one monster to the next. I checked every connection on my phone. Reanalyzed every new employee in my company. Reviewed every social interaction I'd had over the last 6 months. And now, every time someone smiles too easily, every time someone laughs at the right moment, every time someone says you can trust me, I wonder if it's her. But I'm not the same man I was 15 years ago. And if Areeba's sister thinks I'll be an easy target, she hasn't seen what I do to snakes. Areeba never mentioned a sister. In either timeline, Areeba swore it was real, same mother, different father. Kept out of records. Same tactics, same scams. But worse, smarter, meaner. She doesn't want money, Areeba said. She wants payback. She knows what you did. I asked why she was telling me. Areeba leaned in, voice barely audible, because she's already in your life. I left that apartment with a different kind of fear burning in my chest. I'd faced betrayal. I'd faced heartbreak. I'd even faced death. But this was something new. A predator hunting the hunter. Someone raised in the shadows of my revenge. A blood debt passed from one monster to the next. I checked every connection on my phone. Reanalyzed every new employee in my company. Reviewed every social interaction I'd had over the last 6 months. And now, every time someone smiles too easily, every time someone laughs at the right moment, every time someone says you can trust me, I wonder if it's her. But I'm not the same man I was 15 years ago. And if Areeba's sister thinks I'll be an easy target, she hasn't seen what I do to snakes.